Today, we're diving into caregiving lessons learned from actress Yvette Nicole Brown. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. Hi, Dr. Lakelyn here. Welcome to Caregiver Chats. I'm a gerontologist and caregiving advocate for Home Instead, an Honor Company. I'm so glad you're taking the time to join me. These conversations are a space for learning, reflection, and support. And I invite you to subscribe to Caregiver Chats on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget, I love hearing from you. You can connect with me on Instagram at Caregiver Chats Podcast. My guest today has brought laughter to millions through beloved television shows like Community, A Black Lady Sketch Show, Drake and Josh, and more. But beyond her incredible career in entertainment, she has become a powerful voice for family caregivers across the country. More than a decade ago, after her father's Alzheimer's diagnosis, Yvette began balancing a successful career in Hollywood with the deeply personal role of caring for her dad, a journey that has shaped both her life and her advocacy. Since then, she has used her platform to shine a light on the realities of caregiving, reminding families that while this journey can be incredibly challenging, it can also be filled with love, resilience, humor, and meaningful moments of connection. Today, we'll be talking about how her caregiving journey began, the lessons she's learned along the way, and how her background in acting and improv has unexpectedly helped her navigate the ever-changing world of dementia caregiving. We'll also explore the importance of building community through partnerships like Care Out Loud and Hilarity for Charity, and discuss her upcoming role as the keynote speaker at the National Alliance for Caregiving Summit this November. I'm so honored to welcome actress, producer, author, and caregiver advocate Yvette Nicole Brown to Caregiver Chats. Welcome, Yvette. I'm so honored to have you join me today on Caregiver Chats.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is truly ours. And I thought, just so our listeners can get to know you a little bit, can you share your caregiving journey with us? Can you kind of take us all the way back to when you first started to notice maybe some changes in your dad, Omar, and start to notice, okay, maybe there's something going on. Maybe there's some change happening.
Yeah, so I think it was 2013. I'm the worst with dates. It was 2013. It was around the end of Community ending. Community was coming to an end. And I noticed that my dad was a little forgetful. He lived in Ohio. I was out here in LA. And my mom and I both noticed that, he would repeat himself. And I remember I'd gone home to Cleveland to help him retire. He needed to take meetings and turn in paperwork and all this stuff. And so I'd gone to Cleveland to help him. And the last thing I did was I put all of his paperwork, which had like his social security card and everything, his entire life, in this one binder. And I said, Dad, all you got to do, take this binder to Kinko's or wherever, get copies of everything. And I put all the envelopes, mail this one here, because I was speaking to him as if I didn't know yet that something was going on at that level. By the time I got to the airport to fly, my dad had called me and said, Yvette, I can't find the binder. Oh, and I'm like, well, what do you mean you can't? Daddy, it was in the car with you. You dropped me off at the airport. You drove. It's got to be either in the car. Where did you go? He was like, well, I went here. And turns out the binder was on his radiator in his apartment. And he had no recollection of bringing it in and setting it down. And that's when it hit me. Something is really wrong. So being in LA and him being there, I'm like, I have to figure out how I can make this work. So I said to myself, as soon as Community is canceled, I'm flying to Cleveland and getting him. No questions asked. Here we go. And Community was canceled on a Friday. By Sunday, I was in Cleveland packing my dad up. I was there for a couple of weeks, brought him out to LA. And then he was in my care full time for 11 and a half years.
Wow.
And would still be with me right now. But he unfortunately had a fall a year and a half ago, and he broke his hip. And he did all the rehab. We got him back to walking, but amnesia mixed with Alzheimer's, something happens. And his Alzheimer's told him that he could no longer walk. And so once he was no longer able to walk, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to quit acting. And I'm going to become a registered nurse, and I'm going to learn how to do the lifts and the transfers. And I'm full speed ahead on this is my new career path. And one of his social workers said, okay, let me just have a moment. He was like, I'm very clear that there is no one on this planet that will love your father as much as you love your father. But is it possible that there's someone on this planet that can care for your father better than you can care for your father? And I was like, oh. And he said, I'm going to go one step further. Do you think your father wants you to be his nurse or his daughter?
Ooh.
And I said, oh. I said, I know he'd want me to be his daughter, because there were times in the 11 years when I was caring for him, sometimes he needed help in the shower. He needed help in the bathroom. And it was devastating for both of us. He hated it. I hated it. But we laughed through it and made it work. The idea of me doing that for him every time he had to use the bathroom or every time he needed a shower, I knew that something within him would break. So I was like, this is the right move. So I took the energy of becoming a nurse and I funneled that into finding the perfect board and care for him. And he is with the wonderful Lala and Rosie, who take care of him. And he's 15 minutes from my house, so I can go see him. As soon as I finish today, I'm going to spend a couple of hours with him. So it's been the best of both worlds. But when I tell you it has been a journey, it has been a journey.
Oh, gosh, I'm sure. Well, over that span of, 11, 12, 13 years, it's bound to be a journey.
Absolutely.
And I talk with caregivers a lot about how caregiving is a journey. It's like a marathon, not a sprint. So I think it's so interesting that you brought up kind of that simultaneous role of nurse and daughter, and how over your caregiving journey, that line kind of got blurred at times. And so many caregivers I know kind of walk that path of, okay, one minute they feel like a family member, the next minute they feel like a caregiver. And it can be hard to kind of navigate that role. Through your journey, you mentioned you noticed the signs and the changes. Can you tell us a little bit about the diagnosis journey? Because I know for so many family caregivers, that can be a very long process. So did you experience that same thing, or was it a little more expedited? Love to understand more.
It's funny because my father's father, my grandfather, passed of Alzheimer's. And I knew how devastating that was to watch happen and how hard it was for my granddad. So I was afraid of the word Alzheimer's. So for a long time, I just said, well, my dad has dementia, because Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. And so until we got the actual diagnosis, I kept pushing it back. No, it's just a little dementia, because he's getting older and we all get forgetful as we get older. So I was kind of lying to myself, hiding from it. So by the time I was able to accept that this was advancing, this was more than just a little bit of memory loss, it was probably 6 months to a year before we got the full, because we kept taking tests. They put him on that first medication and he was on that for a while. And then it kind of made him catatonic. I would wake up and my dad would just be staring at a wall and nonverbal. And I'm like, this is not good. And so we finally took him off the medication and he was fine. We did a good 6-7 years unmedicated because he was fine. Yeah. He actually was fine. Really, it was advancing, but it wasn't bad until the fall. The fall is when when everything just went haywire. So once we got diagnosed that it was Alzheimer's, which again took 6 months to a year, then at least we knew what it was. So then it's like, let me read up on every food he should be eating. Let me find out about music, because the best thing I learned is that music is the thing that brings them back. And my dad is such a huge fan of doo-wop music. And so I kept the Moon Glows and the Dells playing in the house. And we watched the 5 Heartbeats, his favorite movie, which was all about a doo-wop group. I kept doing that. And the more I did that, the more he stayed with me. And then also because he was with me every day. And as an actor, I didn't work every day. So there were some days I could just be home with him the whole day. So he didn't have that disconnect with me or with life. And so he was able to stay in it a bit longer than I think he would have otherwise if my life and my work was different.
When a loved one is living with Alzheimer's or another type of dementia, the caregiving journey can look different each day. Symptoms can change, routines can shift, and some days can feel overwhelming. It's completely natural to feel uncertain as you navigate these changes, but you don't have to walk this path alone. At Home Instead, our care pros understand the challenges families face throughout the dementia journey and provide personalized support every step of the way. We focus on preserving your loved one's comfort, honoring their routines, and creating a calm, supportive environment at home. Every day, families just like yours turn to Home Instead for personalized dementia support at home. Schedule a free care consultation at homeinstead.com. I think so great that you brought up music because it is so powerful.
It is.
And I think that that's neat how you describe how that kind of helped keep him with you.
Yeah.
And that you could both relate through music. And I think that's true for so many caregivers. And so, finding out what kind of music is most enjoyable for the person living with dementia and really leaning into that can be just so, so powerful. And Yvette, you are an actress and you have been in the show Community, which my husband and I love. It got us through COVID, one of the many shows that got us through COVID. And I would be curious to know how your acting career, how improv has impacted your caregiving or influenced? Have you been able to use any of your skill set there into your role as a caregiver?
Oh, absolutely. Another thing I learned in researching Alzheimer's is that instead of trying to bring them back into your reality, you join them in theirs. And it took me a minute to realize this, because in the first maybe year of having my dad with me, he would talk about something or maybe be lost a little bit in time and go, I went to this school, or I went here, or I just saw Mary. And I'll be like, oh no, Daddy, you didn't see Mary because Mary doesn't live in LA. We're in LA. Mary's back in Ohio. And then it just caused confusion for him. And so now, yes, where'd you see Mary? Was she down at the grocery store? What was she buying? Did she get bacon? And so then I started using yes and, which is what we learn in improv. You just say yes, and then you add to it. So now he's at a place where he's very close to nonverbal unless music is playing. And so when I get to have some sort of conversation with him, whatever he sees, I see. The train is coming. Is it coming, Daddy? Should we get on it? Yeah, we should get on it. So did you bring your bags? Yeah, my bags are by the door. Okay, well, let me go get the bags. And then I'm going to go take them out to the front and I'll come back in and we'll get on the train. Okay? So it's literally like creating a world that he's already in. I just fill in the spots, And so that's all acting, that's all improv, and that's all love. Because the thing that I say most about caregiving, especially when someone is facing it for the first time and they're scared, I say it's a lot. It's daunting. It can be. But what it is essentially is it's just love. And you know how to love. When you love someone, you want to feed them. You want to make sure they're clean and safe and watching good television or listening to good music and they're not afraid. That's all you're doing as a caregiver. You're keeping them clean and safe and happy and content. It seems hard, but it's not. It's just loving your person, whoever they are, brother, sister, mom, dad, auntie. Yeah. It's just, or your kids, because people forget parents are caregivers too. We're all doing this work. Everybody is doing this work in some capacity, and everyone will do this work in some capacity before they leave. You'll be a caregiver or a caregivee. Some people will be both before they leave.
Yeah. It's such a good reminder. It touches all of us, and it touches us differently kind of throughout our life course too. As you mentioned, parents, and then you care for older members of your family. Maybe you end up caring for a spouse, and then ultimately likely will be cared for yourself. So I think I appreciate the fact that caregiving is kind of finally rising to the national conversation, and it's getting some well-deserved spotlight because everyone is facing it in one way or another, or will at some point.
That's right.
Yeah. I'd also be curious to learn too. I would imagine, I'm not an actress. My sister and her husband live in that world. And I would imagine that being present is very important as you are in character in whatever role you're playing. Do you find the same to be true being a caregiver? Is being present an important part of showing up well for your loved one?
Yeah, I feel like it's really across the board with anyone you care about. You feel the urgency of the moment in caregiving because the person is declining in some way, physically or mentally. And so you're very aware that they're diminishing in some way. But really in any interaction you have with anyone, this is all we got. This moment with you right now is all I really own, right? Whatever's happening outside this door, outside this house, I'm not a part of that. What I have is right now. And so either I need to lock in with you and have this wonderful moment with you and talk about what matters about caregiving, or why do it? And so it's kind of the same thing when you're a caregiver. If you're in the room, be in the room. You know, if you're on the phone with them, checking in, be on the phone, checking in, be present. It's the same thing people tell parents when they're raising their kids. You know, your baby comes and talks to you or wants to talk to you about your school day. Put your phone down. Put your phone down.
Yeah.
Mute the television and focus on your baby. It's exactly the same thing. And so when I spend time with my father, my phone is down unless I'm videotaping him or taking a picture of us. I'm in his face. I'm smiling. I'm feeding him. We're listening to music or we're watching a movie together. But I am there with him. And whether we're talking or not, I'm holding his hand. I'm rubbing his little head. You know, it's a very wonderful space to be in. And it's so precious because what we know for sure is that somebody could be here today and be gone tomorrow. Like this stuff is, life is so tenuous. You just don't know how it's going to play out. Be present.
Yeah.
Always. Always.
Such good advice. And it can be so hard, I think, especially in the day and age that we live in of distraction, to easily turn to our phone or other distractions, but to give the person we're caring for our full attention, is so important. And to really, also kind of open ourselves up, I think, to the emotions of caregiving. I think that's also important. As you mentioned earlier, it can be such a gift to be in this caregiving role and to spend that very concentrated time with our loved ones. And that can be so joyful, but there can be really hard moments too, really challenging times. So how over your caregiving journey have you kind of navigated the emotional roller coaster that so many caregivers describe caregiving to be?
You know, I'm very blessed in that my father has always been the kindest, most gentle man. And for the most part, out of the 13 years we've been on this journey, there's been maybe a season of 3 or 4 days in 6 months in between where he's been disagreeable in any way. Wow. He's just not that guy, right? And what I've learned about dementia and Alzheimer's is it really intensifies, just like fame and success, by the way. It intensifies the person you already are. So if you're a kind, loving, peaceful person and you get immense fame and fortune, you're going to still be a kind, decent person just with more fame and fortune. If you are a kind person who gets dementia, you're going to be kind just with some memory loss, right? So the beautiful thing about my dad is that he's not volatile. But the seasons when he was, because the thing about Alzheimer's is they go through seasons, I tell people that are facing it, don't let any particular season wear you out because it's not going to last long. And that's another life lesson. Whoever you are, whatever you're going through in life, it's not going to last long. It's like seasons of time. And so you just have to leave the room, cry, weep silently if you need to, because it was vicious in the room. Get yourself together and you come back. Because the thing that I also remind people of is that whatever you're getting, it's not your person, it's the disease. And if you're aware that it's a disease, then even when they're disagreeable or they're cranky or they're confused or whatever they're doing that's making you feel like you're ill-equipped to care for them in that moment, it's not them. Yeah. So leave the room and go, damn it, Alzheimer's, shake it off and go right back in and go, okay, Daddy. So again, I was asking you what you want to watch. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a dance. And I joke that I am not very good at self-care because I never have been. It's even worse now that I'm a caregiver because my focus is always on my father. My focus is always on how will this affect my dad. But I do think it's important to find some type of relief for yourself, some release for yourself. And every caregiver has to find that. For me, it's building Lego. If I build Lego, my brain shuts off, at least the part of the brain that overthinks and catastrophizes. That part of my brain shuts down and I'm able just to focus on the task. Some people knit, some people crochet, some people draw, some people color. But for me, it's building Lego. So I say for every caregiver, when the weight gets too heavy, find something that brings you joy and maybe take that into the room with your caregiver. If you got 6-7 hours of standing vigil over something, or you're at the hospice visiting them or the rehab visiting them or wherever you're going, or even if you're just hanging out in their room because you care for them in your home, take your Legos in there with you, take your knitting in there with you so that whatever happens in that room, you are mentally okay and able to continue to love on your person the way you should.
Such a great piece of advice and finding that one thing. I love that you love Legos. Have you ever met Loretta Venny? who does the dementia Lego. It's like she has this whole website. You got to check her out.
I have not.
We'll put her
Please
name in
send
the
it to
show
me.
notes. She's been on the
Please send it to me.
podcast. Yes. So she helps caregivers kind of express emotion about their caregiving role through Legos, and then encourages caregivers to do Legos with their person living with dementia. It's beautiful.
See,
She's an incredible person. You're going to want to connect with her. I'll make it happen.
Please. And see, I knew Lego was special. I discovered it. My mom had passed, and I was out of the country working when she passed, and I had 2 months before I could come back. And Lego was the only thing that mentally kept me together. So I knew that it worked for grief. Yeah. And I figured, let me just take this into the room with Daddy as well. And that's what I found. But I please tell me more. I want to know more about her, and check out her page. Yeah,
I will send you more info. She's incredible and just a lovely human, just like yourself. So I also, one of the other things I really admire about you is how you have really become a champion for caregivers. You have a podcast called Squeeze, where you are elevating caregiver voices and stories, which is just so incredible. So tell us a little bit about your podcast.
So Squeezed is produced by the amazing Limonada Media, and it's in conjunction with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And our goal is we wanted to create a docu-podcast. So the same way you'll watch a documentary and you'll see the person's life and they'll talk about the life. On Squeeze, you can hear their life. So if it's a father of triplets in New York, you'll hear him making breakfast and the kids going, "Daddy, I have soccer tonight." And then we'll segue from that, or that'll be interspersed with an actual conversation with the caregiver. And we find out more about their life. And we wanted it like that because caregiving can be such a solitary thing, and you feel like you're the only one doing it. And so we wanted Squeeze to be informative. So you can listen to Squeeze to find out about what the government is doing in regards to caregiving, or to find out what a death doula does, or all of these different things. There's a lot of informative episodes. But more than anything, every single episode can be your friend in the room while you're providing care. We wanted it to just be some voices having a conversation, talking about things that will resonate with the caregiver. And it's just a soft space to land. So that's what Squeezed was built to be. And we're so grateful. We're going into our 3rd season, and we've gotten nominated for NAACP Image Awards, and we won a Gracie Award for what we're doing. And
that's
more
amazing.
than that, more than the awards, just out in the world, running into caregivers that say, "Thank you. You know, I heard this episode and it made me rethink this," or I heard your episode with Javier Becerra when he was Health and Human Services Secretary, and I learned this. Like, it's just beautiful, beautiful conversations with people doing their best to take care of other people. I don't think it gets better than that.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, so many caregivers feel isolated. So hearing another caregiver story without having to go to a support group, which support groups are amazing. But some people don't have time for that. Exactly. So just to hear another caregiver story that's so real and authentic gives a lot of caregivers hope, or that feeling of, or lessening that feeling of isolation. So powerful. So we'll definitely include a link to that in the show notes. People should definitely check out Squeezed, fantastic podcast. And then what's so fun is you work in a few other advocacy spaces that we also work in, between Home Instead and myself. So I thought we could chat a little about that as well. The first being Care Out Loud, which is a really great campaign to elevate the caregiving voice and to provide tangible resources. And if you go to the homepage, you see this great, almost like infomercial style video of Yvette. I think the first line is like, "If you're not caring for an aging parent, someday you will very soon." So tell us about that campaign, why you chose to get involved, and the reach, which the reach is incredible.
Yeah. So I'm going to pull up my notes because this reach blew my mind. We are at 296 million. That's our audience. We've reached 296 million people, and we have 14 million in donated media, which is really amazing because we could not afford to put this PSA everywhere it needs to be seen. So I got a call. My friend Ken was working with them, and he reached out and he said, "You know, I know you do things in the caregiving space. Would you be willing to partner on a PSA?" I was like, "Absolutely." And they designed this amazing PSA that was kind of like an old time infomercial. Yeah. That explains a robot that can do all the things that a caregiver can do. And there's no robot that exists that can care for people the way people care for people. And so it basically gives you resources. And the whole goal is to remind you that you're not alone. Again, you're not alone, and that there are resources available. And basically the reminder that you're a rock star as well. So that's what Care Out Loud does. The website is amazing. There's a lot of resources. I think, I'm a little biased, but I think our social media posts and our PSAs are beautiful and funny and informative. And that's what we want. We want you to laugh instead of cry at the state of our healthcare system and how hard it is to be a caregiver. And honestly, I want to say, I feel like the hardest part of doing it is that there's no help federally. Right. We, not to get political, but we had a candidate running for president that wanted to actively make a way for care to be brought into the home in an affordable way, because what people forget is that in-home caregivers are not being paid. I did 11 and a half years of caring for my father every single day, and I never got a salary for that. Now, granted, I have the means to be able to do it, but what about the people who don't? What about the people that are working a full-time job and then are coming home and doing another full-time job? If we just had some funding set aside, because again, it's something that everybody's going to have to do before they leave here. If there was funding set aside where they could do it with a bit of grace and decency without struggling, what a gift that would be. And so I feel like campaigns like Care Out Loud and Squeeze and what we're doing here, it kind of spreads the word so that there are people that can go, well, let me call my congressman or my mayor or my government and find out what they have in place that maybe I don't know about, or what they can put in place to make things easier for us.
Yeah, I think you're so right. I think that we don't do enough for caregivers. And so work like this campaign and then the next two we're going to chat about, I think are helping caregivers tell their stories, because the most powerful person to speak up about caregiving is caregivers themselves and to share their stories. And so we're going to talk in a minute about one organization that's really helping caregivers do that. But I think too, what's also hard is you don't know what you don't know. And so there might be grants or programs out there to support caregivers in your area. And again, I think what's hard is in the US, every state has different programs, so it's kind of hard to figure out. But once you start to kind of dip your toe into this world of caregiving, to like claim, okay, yes, I'm a caregiver, and start to learn about, which is probably the hardest part, is getting people to admit that they're a caregiver. But you start to learn from others. Okay, you've used this program. Okay, let me look into that. Granted, we don't do enough, but I think sometimes it just takes a little digging, which again, caregivers are already so busy. So it just adds another layer of stress, but you start to slowly uncover a few resources to hopefully make your journey a little lighter or to get some support. And that's the goal for me on this podcast, is helping caregivers know, okay, what resources are out there? What are some tips that I can implement today? And so if we're all doing this, that really elevates the caregiving journey. And I love when we all kind of overlap and intercept. Which is so fun. And one of the other organizations we overlap on is Hilarity for Charity, which is such a fun organization. Talk about bringing levity to the topic of Alzheimer's and dementia, which can sometimes feel so heavy. But for those that don't know, Hilarity for Charity, HFC, was started by actor Seth Rogen and his wife, Lauren Miller Rogen. And Home Instead's their preferred provider of their care grant. So they recognize that, families can't always afford in-home care. So they have these grants that people can apply for. But in addition to that, they have a whole host of resources and some really fun celebrities that have championed the cause like you. So Yvette, tell us how you've connected with HFC and the work they're doing.
I connected with them during the pandemic, and I think they were doing one of their comedy podcast variety show telethon. It was like, when I say it was everybody that has ever done something great in entertainment was in that Zoom. We rotated in, we played games. I was in a Zoom with Charlize Theron. I said, well, I have really made it.
Yeah, I was on that too. Yeah, it was so neat. Remember?
Yeah, it was crazy. So what I have learned from Seth and Lauren is that their ability, their capacity to endure the hardship of what her mom went through and say, this was dreadful. It was dreadful because these things were missing financially, or like a safety net in some way was missing in regards to how we can best care for her or advocate for her. And they said, let's find funding to make sure no one else has to. Because again, going back, Seth and Lauren have the means. So this was not an issue of how do I pay for what mom needs, but it's like, how do I get exactly what mom needs? How do I make sure that it is something that actually benefits her? Who are the people that know what's best for her? It's like needing to find out everything at once. And what they've created with Hilarity for Charity is kind of a one-stop shop to get all those things, to get questions answered, to get a grant to help you if you're struggling. And then also, let's laugh and have a good time while we go through what we're going through and while they are going through what they go through. I think it's brilliant what they've made. Brilliant.
I would agree. And it's so fun to be a part of. And they draw you in because they make it fun. They make it approachable. I love their online support groups, all of the online resources that they've created. And they're collaborating on education too, on brain health, because we're learning there's a lot we can do in our younger years to hopefully prevent Alzheimer's in our older years. So they're supporting people kind of on both ends, those that are experiencing the disease and caring for their loved ones. And then on the other side, educating young people on brain health and this disease and helping to, I think, decrease the stigma around it too.
Yeah, and I think this is why it's important too, because Alzheimer's is not always hereditary, but sometimes it is. And so if you have a family member, a mother, father that has it, it would be smart to learn what you can do at a younger age, especially if you're the caregiver and you see how it ends. You know what I mean? Alzheimer's is gross. It's not good. It's bad. It's a bad journey. You know, we make it easier. We make it better and we walk it with them. But if you can prevent it from happening to you or someone, you need to do that. Yeah. If there's a way to prevent it, let's do that. So I love that they're finding ways to say, hey, how about try this? How about you do this? How about you exercise? It always comes down to exercise, which I'm not a fan of.
Exercise and what you eat. That's like the cure for everything. Come on, it's so hard.
Come on, it's hard. But even with that, I get up and I walk a little bit now. You know, I watch it, make sure that I keep my cholesterol down and make sure that I have diabetes. So I watch my diabetes. So these are the things that I'm doing to try to make sure that I'm going to be okay, later.
Yeah. I think that the education is
it's great.
So it's again fun, and they've brought in experts and celebrities to make it super fun. So if you haven't checked out HFC, please go to their website. We are hfc.org. Definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely.
And then the last area where we intersect, and I mentioned I was going to bring up an organization that really is honed in on advocacy, National Alliance for Caregiving. I have the true honor of sitting on their board. They're an incredible organization, and they have an upcoming summit in November. It's November 17th to the 19th. And you're going to be the keynote. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. And I have a lot that I want to share, but I hope that they open it up to be a bit of a Q&A too, because I love people and I want to hear their stories. And I want to know if there's any way that I can also help them, because I believe any institutional knowledge that I have after, my years of doing this, I'm happy to share. But I'm really excited. Anytime I get to be in a room with other caregivers or people that advocate for caregivers is a beautiful day for me, so I'm excited.
That's great. Oh, well, we're going to make sure we meet in person on that day when you're there. But for those that are listening and you're thinking, well, I can't make it to DC because I'm a caregiver, Home Instead is actually sponsoring the virtual version of the conference, so the live stream. So we'll make sure to share out all that information so caregivers can register and tune in. And that organization, they are really doing incredible work on Capitol Hill in the state governments, pushing for resources, supports for caregivers. And I just so admire the progress that they have made. And they have also this incredible report on caregiving that they put out every 5 years. I nerd out on that report every year just to see the state of caregiving. And I'm always humbled when I read through that report because there are millions of people caregiving, and they really do a great job to capture those experiences. So, exciting again that our paths have kind of overlapped in these various organizations, and looking forward to that summit in November, which will be great. And Yvette, as we kind of wrap up our discussion, which we could talk for hours, and I'm so grateful that you've been with us, I would love maybe a little perspective. You have that lived experience, that lived expertise. You've been on this journey for well over a decade. If you could go back to the early days of caregiving and tell yourself a few pieces of advice, knowing what you know now, what would those words of wisdom be?
It's funny. I would initially tell anyone not to be afraid, but it's funny. I wouldn't need to tell myself that because I was never afraid. I don't know what it was about. Sorry, I'm getting emotional.
It's okay.
I don't know what it was within me that just locked in immediately, but I know that it was just how lovely my dad is. I always joke when I talk about it. I say, he taught me how to use a spoon. So, and that's been a very important skill for me because I eat a lot. So, anything he needed of me, he could have. And it has been the greatest honor of my life caring for him. And that is what I would want caregivers to know. It is going to be very hard, but it's going to be the most beautiful, hard thing you ever do. I would do it again. I would do it for 20 more years if I could have him. I hope I get to have him for a lot more time, but you can do it. It is going to be hard. Allow people to help you. Lean into your loved one. Know that if they could tell you, they would tell you how grateful they are that you are showing up for them. And just lean into the love, because the love is what's going to carry you through, all of it. So don't be afraid, is what I would say. Don't be afraid.
What a beautiful way to end. This is like a mic drop moment. I have nothing more to say. Yvette, that was so beautiful. Such beautiful words of advice. And your dad is so lucky to have you as his daughter first and caregiver. And so many people listening. I love that you said, even if your loved one can't tell you, know that they're grateful. I think sometimes this role can be very thankless. Yeah. And so I think that is a great piece of advice, or not even advice, word of wisdom to impart, is that the person is grateful, and maybe they can't always say it or show it. And we also see it. I think that's another thing about us advocating out there for caregivers is we see the work that all of these amazing caregivers are doing. And if no one else is going to say thank you, we're going to say thank you.
We'll say thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Yvette, thank you so much. Speaking of thank you so much for joining me today. It's just been so lovely to get to know you better and to hear your story and to learn about all the work you're doing to advocate for caregivers. So I look forward to continuing to stay in touch and follow Squeezed, your podcast, and all of the great work you're doing in this space.
Thank you so much.
I want to sincerely thank Yvette for joining me today and for sharing her caregiving journey with such honesty, compassion, and heart. Her story is a powerful reminder that while none of us choose the caregiving journey, we do get to choose how we walk it. Through her example, we've seen that it's possible to laugh often, ask for help, and continue finding moments of connection even when caring for a loved one living with Alzheimer's disease. I especially appreciate her willingness to use her voice to help caregivers everywhere feel seen and supported. To our listeners, I hope today's conversation reminds you that caregiving isn't meant to be done alone. Whether it's leaning on family and friends, connecting with organizations like Hilarity for charity, or simply reaching out to another caregiver who understands, support is out there. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another caregiver who could use a little encouragement today. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at Caregiver Chats Podcast for episode updates, caregiving tips, and more. Thanks for listening, and please remember to take good care of yourself while you care for others. Caregiver Chats is brought to you by Home Instead. If you're looking for in-home care to support you on your caregiving journey, please visit homeinstead.com to learn more.